Oh, there we go. Oh my gosh. I don't know. My camera's not working very well. This is on an older computer. I hope you can hear me. My advice would be if you actually watch this video, if I even post it. I apologize. My other computer just went. That was it. There was no warning. And it was gone. So meanwhile, I've fallen back on a really old one. The one that I used to use years ago. Was still kicking around the house, so I started it up, but wow, look at it. So I don't know. If you want to listen to the video, I guess that's what you're going to have to do. Watching it's just going to be so aggravating. If it's even picking up correctly and not stalling out. So I guess really what we need to do is just hear, not so much see. So we were looking at wisdom in the Apocrypha, weren't we? And we had already looked at chapter 1. I've made my notes on chapter 2 and 3. And I had went to record yesterday, and then I found my problem. So now we're going to read, hopefully, chapters 2 and 3. Forgive the drag, as long as the volume is there, that's great. So chapter 2, let's begin our read so we can get at least one chapter done, if nothing else, under this particular horrible situation, I guess, for me anyway. Chapter 2, for the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves. Now what we really got to do here is just, we're going to bolt down through these verses down to verse 11, because it's telling us something. So let's just see what it's telling us. For the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves, but not a right. So what's a right? Correctly or properly. So for the ungodly, the evil, reasoning with themselves, but not correctly, have said, our life is short and tedious, and in death of a man there is no remedy. Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. And I'm going to tell you, well, they made one, Jesus. Alright, that's the one they're going to tell us. But again, that is a snare. So, but we do believe in the next life. But this is what they say. For we are born at all adventure, and we shall be hereafter as though we had never been. For the breath in our nostrils is as smoke, and a little spark in the moving of our hearts. Which being extinguished, our body shall be turned into ashes, and our spirit shall vanish as the soft air. So again, that verse simply takes us back, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And then they usually will place a little pile of ashes or dust or dirt on top of the coffin before it goes into the ground, signifying that we become ashes and dust. Back to the earth we return, and our spirit, we are told, goes to God. So verse, okay, I already read 3. Which being extinguished, our body shall be turned into ashes, and our spirit shall vanish as the soft air. Verse 4, and our names shall be forgotten in time, and no man shall have our works in remembrance, and our life shall pass away as the trace of a cloud, and shall be dispersed as a mist that is driven away with the beams of the sun, and overcome with the heat thereof. Alright, verse 5. For our time is a very shadow that passes away, and after our end there is no returning. For it is fast sealed, so that no man cometh again. Verse 6. Come on, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are present, and let us speedily use the creatures, like as in our youth, right? So there you got use, you know, and within that is the word abuse the creation. Let us fill ourselves with costly wine and ointments, and let no flower of the spring pass by us. I take the no flower of the spring means young girls. That's how I take it. Maidens. They were going to have all the women they wanted. That's right. They were going to drink all the costly wine they wanted, and they were going to have all the ointment or oils, fat things of the land, that they wanted, because most times ointments will mean fatness, fat things, the good things of the earth. Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they be withered. So it's almost like they're trying to make these women again. Well, the rosebuds are the young again. It's a reference to the young. And we know that we see Ephraim tossing the crown of Ephraim into the earth, down to the earth. They cast their own glory down to the earth. And here we're saying, let us crown ourselves with rosebuds. Rosebuds buds are young, right? Tender flowers again. So, verse 9, let none of us go without his part of our voluptuousness. Do you know one of David's men, mighty men, that list in 2 Samuel, 23? Where it lists his mighty men. The first or second one, the meaning of his name is voluptuous. It's funny. It's so funny. Just like the seat of his one to his right hand was the seat of wisdom. Really, when you run out the full meaning of the word, which actually takes us to the seat of beauty. Really, is what it was. And from our studies, it was not held by no man. It was held by a woman. And some of the names of David's men lead you to the understanding that her right hand, these mighty men of valor, there's some suggestion there that they were not mighty men of valor. They were actually women. Anyway, so let none of us go without his part of our voluptuousness. Again, all the grand things, the great things of life. Let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place, for this is our portion, and our lot is this. So it kind of has the idea, let us leave our joy. We're going to party on. We're going to party hard. It's kind of almost your understanding. So wisdom 2, this is the note that I wrote down. Excuses for doing every wicked and evil thing that they wanted. Basically, there is no God. That's what they're saying. They won't answer for any wickedness that they do, which you get that in the Old Testament over and over again. They say, oh, don't worry. They actually say in a couple, God won't know. God don't know. Won't know what we did. So they won't answer for any wickedness that they do. So basically, have and do what we want. Party on. And make ourselves with no care of the miseries of others that they inflict, this lifestyle that these men want. Indeed, they've inflicted a great deal of pain and abuses, in particularly on the women, I would say. So verse 11, let's go to verse 11, because here we get some more. Verse 10. That's where we're going. 10. Let us oppress the poor righteous. It says man. No, it's woman, and we can prove that by the continued study here. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age. Now, we've discussed this, ain't we? Where wisdom come from. It was from the women inside the nation of Israel called the cunning women. We get them in Jeremiah 9, weeping for themselves in their houses that had cast them out. They no longer wanted them in covenant. And so you get the aged here, which leads us to what they were actually up to in the next verse. This is all validated. By simply reasoning it out and having knowledge and understanding of our own world and looking around us and at our own history, that speaks of these things. So verse 12. Is it 12? No, it is 11. Let our strength be the law of justice. Watch that. For that which is feeble is found to be nothing. So what are they saying? It sounds, hypocritical based on everything they just said in the prior verses. Let's take control of the law. For we will decide the justice, what is right and what is wrong. So they're talking about justice here, which is very hypocritical because of what everything they said from verse 1 to 11. So now they're saying, well, if we're going to do all of these things and we're going to be able to get away with it, then we're going to have to take control of the law. And that means that the feeble will be found to be nothing. She's going to have no rights. We know that the women of wisdom, the daughters inside the nation of Israel, were considered the law upon earth that came from God. And they were up to no good, these boys. They were going to take control of that law. And that's what this is all indicative of. But nobody wants to discuss that, at least not off the pulpit, that men have took control of the law when it was not theirs to take control of. It always belonged to God. And it was supposed to come off of the daughter's tongue inside the nation of Israel until they decided they were going to do all these things because they didn't believe in God. The presence of God on earth was represented by the women, so they were saying, there's no God. It's just, that's how they blasphemed the Holy One. I was looking a bit deeper into that. Oh, darn, I wish I'd have brought the book. They were blaspheming her, and they were saying, Shebna was saying to Hezekiah at that time, you yourself who's saying your own God, who was she? The one that Sennacherib was actually blaspheming, that was sitting between the cherubims in 2 Kings chapter 19. He said, was it not you, King Hezekiah, that went up and tore the high places down of this Lord, of the feminine? That's what you get out of it when you get your understanding, when you get your knowledge going. And these boys here were doing the exact same thing. They were blaspheming the Holy One on earth called God. They were saying there was no such thing as God. And these daughters and these women were saying, we came from heaven to bring you the law. This is the covenant of God on our tongue. And they were just simply rejecting it. They were saying, oh, please, we're never going to get caught. And then they were saying, let our strength be the law of justice. Well, just in case, we'll cover our backsides, our form of justice will take hold. We'll cover it, right? So, we will decide the justice, what is right and what is wrong, because the feeble is found to be nothing worthy, idea of the old, the wise women in Israel that we discussed in the last video, Jeremiah 9. They were robbing them of their rights and saying they were of no value. And that's just what they were doing. So their form of justice is their strength to actually commit and do everything that they said they were going to do in verses 1 to 11. Right? That's what we see. I do apologize for the quality of this video. I do apologize for this. Okay, so now we're going to verse 12. So, therefore let us lie in wait for the righteous, because she is not for our turn. They got he. Now understand he. But when we really study with knowledge and comprehension of our own world, we can really put the Old Testament and the Apocrypha in proper context. And it was she that they were casting down. We see that. Therefore let us lie in wait for the righteous, because she is not for our turn. They wouldn't stand with them. You see, I said there are many of these women who died for what they believed in. They would not go behind and follow behind these men and support them in their wickedness. They wouldn't be a part of it. And certainly the men didn't require their support. They were going to do it regardless. And they figured they were going to get away with it, that there was going to be no God that was going to say any different. So therefore let us lie in wait for the righteous, because she is not for our turn, and she is clean, contrary to our doing. She's not going to support us in these wicked acts that we're going to commit. She upbraideth us with our offending the law. What law? The law of God. Not this made-up law that gets that they offend the Holy One's law every day with this made-up law, saying it came from God. This made-up covenant they also use to offend with. So they upbraideth us with our offending the law, and they objecteth to our infamy, the transgressing of our education. So they were mocking, and they were mocking the holy ones. When I say holy ones, perhaps I need to clarify this, and this may not be the great video to clarify it on. But I couldn't help but notice when I was reading, because this kind of puzzled me a little bit myself. My nose itches. Oh. That term, Holy One. But when I was reading in the commentary, in the notes, it was either under Revelation 3:7 or under Isaiah 22. I think it was one of those two, concerning the key of David. And underneath those particular verses, when you isolate them and you put them up and then you scroll down underneath, there'll be these commentaries that brings in the key of David. And when God says, when they were making the comment on, the Holy One in Israel, or holy ones, they weren't saying it was so much about a person being so holy, that they never did anything wrong. It was like it was almost coming down to isolating a particular trait or characteristic of that person that defined them as holy to God. I hate to use myself as an example, but I can't think of anything else. What God would possibly see in my nature that God could use to God's benefit, right? And God don't need to use anybody, forgive me for saying that. But to bless us, God will pull out the trait within certain individuals that God really does view as holy and significant within that person. And in my case, it was the pursuit of the truth. And even yet today, I find it staggering that people think that what gets taught off the pulpit is the truth. It never had that feel to it. And it puzzled me, and it really bothered me enough to bring me to my knees to ask God for that truth. And I think that's what defined me as one that she determined she was going to pull out and use for this purpose. So it don't mean that you're polished, perfectly clean in every way. In that aspect is what I got, what I pulled out of the Key of David commentary, was that, don't get it in your head that when we say holy ones, that we're talking them, they're perfect in every way. It means that they have a particular characteristic that God is isolating them for. And I found that one more, more of an explanation for that term, a better explanation for that term, than that this person is perfect in every way. I know too many people, I haven't found a perfect one yet, right? Myself included in that. But for me, I know that truth mattered enough that I really wanted to pursue that, and I think God used me for that purpose, is what I'm saying. So, there we go. Now, so they let me see, an objective to our infamy, the transgressing of our education. Now, we saw them actually really literally transgressing their education in Lamentations 4:1, when we see them actually murdering the wise women on the street corners, is what we understood when we went in and looked at the words. And what you get there in allegory is that really you get the high priest breastplate, is what you get when you look at the words. And your holy ones, or your cunning women, were considered your sacred stones. That's what they were called. Your sacred and your holy stones. And the sons that were to be supporting these were considered your gold in a lot of ways. So there you get your high priest breastplate with the gold encrusted stones. But what do we find the sons doing there? We find them murdering these sacred, precious gemstones, and instead of offering up a water libation, they begin to offer up a blood libation, is what we find them doing. And that takes us back to the book of Esther. It does. Where we get a son teaching a daughter, a young girl, because they have took control of the educating system. And they were educating the young girls because they had murdered the wise women that would have taught them differently, had to bow to a king, is what we see. So I had said in one of the videos, Esther can't tell you her story because Esther was robbed of her story, just like all us women were robbed of our story. And by extension, all the men were robbed. The sons were robbed. The righteous sons were robbed of their stories. And you get the term sons of God. It means they were the sons of the daughters of Israel inside the nation of Israel, because the daughters inside the nation of Israel was known as the presence of God on earth, known as God. So that's where you get the term sons of God. And it says, once worth their weight in gold in Lamentations 4:1, have now become the value of nothing more than a clay pot. They weren't holding water. They were like broken cisterns, is what they actually become. So, verse 13, she professes to have the knowledge of God, and she calleth herself the child of the Lord. Right? She was made to reprove our thoughts. And women, when they're doing what they should do, and you do see them doing this, they will reprove men for their wicked thoughts, for their wicked actions. They will. And forgive me for saying it, because I really resent this term. Got to put a woman in her place. Well, they would put men in their place. And they would say, you do not behave this way. This is not the law of God. This is not righteousness in God's eye. And the men were really not happy with that. So she was made to reprove our thought. She is grievous unto us even to behold. They didn't even like to look at him. They didn't want, I take it they didn't want to look him in the eye. Because in their eyes they saw their own guilt reflected back at them. For her life is not like other men's, is what they got. No, it's not. Because we've identified this in Psalm 50. That was one I needed to pull up, but because of how delicate this is, I can't do it. Psalm 50 we've looked at. She says, you thought I was just like you. I'm not like you. I'm a woman. And that's what she was saying there. And I think this kind of validates that. Okay, Psalm 50. And then Proverbs, Psalms is right. So Psalm 50, we've read this, we've been over it, and I'm sure many people who not watching the video, hopefully listening to it, because hopefully it's recording correctly. But we've looked at this, and she says, now I have set my case in order, right? It is 50, it's not 55, right? Thou sittest and speakest against thy own mother's daughter. Thou slanderest thine own mother's daughter. You sit and speak against thine own sister is what they were doing, which is what they're doing here. That's why it's in the context of wisdom. You're getting the feminine aspect of wisdom inside the nation of Israel, is what you're getting. And she says, these things have thou done. You did these things, and I kept silent. And we have. Women have kept silent and let men write these vicious laws that have allowed terrible crimes to take hold in every land of the globe. There isn't one part of the world that don't have crime, because men write the law and they permit themselves to get away with it, and it is their idea of their own justice, and they had to do that to take control of the law to be able to get away with the things they wanted to get away with, which is what this is all saying. Plain and simple. These things thou hast done, and I kept silent. I let you do it. I did not stand up like I needed to. And while many of these women did fall to death, they were burned to ashes. They were murdered. They were sold off. They were traded because men had taken control of the law of God, her law. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such as one as yourself. Right? They call us the mankind. Mankind. Womankind is not mankind. Womankind is womankind. She's not like him. She's not. Oh yeah, we walk upright. We walk on 2 feet. We have 2 hands. We each have a semblance of a brain. But, and part of the human race, but we are womankind. And that's why she says this, you thought I was like you, but I'm not like you. I am not a man. And I will reprove you for these things. I will reprove you, and I will set them in order before your eyes. I will set the case of God in order. I will set my case in order, and I will make inquisition of the blood that got shed in this land. And that's what it says in the Old Testament, 22. Now consider this, ye that forget God, lest I tear you in pieces, and there will be none to deliver you. None. So back we go. So because this is hard to do. What did I write here? We see, okay, so in verse 12, we see their purposes for taking control of the law from wisdom, or the cunning women in Israel. And it was because they wouldn't support them in their wrongdoings. They would continue to tell them that what they were doing was wrong, and that they were not to be found doing these things. And it really bugged them that they were there to do that. So she is grievous unto us even to behold, for her life is not like other men. Her ways are of another fashion, which is why these women are pulled out. And in the end, we're showing them being rebirthed out of the dust of the earth, holding no guile on their tongue. Now, that doesn't make them perfect, according to what I read. It means each one is chosen for a specific purpose or trait that they hold, that God values highly in them as each individual. As us being each unique individuals. We're not all alike, are we? Some of us are going to be certainly better at other things than, than this one or that one. And so you're going to be pulled out for that purpose. That there's going to be a standard in you that God sees and says, this one will be one that I choose. So let us see if her words be true. And let us prove what shall happen in the end of her. So that's the coming showdown, isn't it? Apparently in the beginning when these women arrived on earth, and they did apparently arrive on earth from a higher plane, we see one of the words in Greek, and if it wasn't so hard I'd pull it up here. And it's even difficult to research in this context. But when they came into this existence, the idea in Greek, and there is a word, is that they were like astral beings that had, come into our world from the very beginning. And the world there is like, I get the idea almost that they came through a gateway, right? That they passed through a gateway. And you can say I'm crazy, a lot, that's fine. But we also understand that it was them that was the portion from above. And we've looked at this because it's in Job 30, right? Job 30 says this. I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? Nope, it's Job 31, verse 1. Why then should it, for what portion of God is there from above, and what inheritance of the Almighty from on high? So she sends her daughters with her law, and they are the portion from God from above. All right? Now, we've looked at this, we've established it in our studies, anyway. So her ways are of another fashion. They were designed for a different purpose. Women are not men, men are not women. These women were designed for the purpose of what was bugging the crap out of these boys up here who wanted to commit evil and be found legal to do so. So in order to be found legal to do all of these things, they had to take control of God's law, which they have done. And all you got to do is open your eyes to see it and to know it and look around. And again, it takes us to this Apocrypha in 2nd Ezra, the book that they call, is it 2nd Ezra? Yeah, 2nd Ezra, where Uriel is saying, you want to know about heavenly things. How could I possibly explain to you about heavenly things when you can't even tell me about your own world? And we are, and as long as we're bowed down at the feet of an idol in religion, which is quite archaic in a sense, what we've been taught, we have not been taught God's way. God says, your ways are not my ways. You turned from me a long time ago. But there's going to come a time when I'm going to put my spirit back on these daughters, and they're going to make inquisitions, and they're going to prove their case. And that's what I think that's what we're here to do. So it says, we are esteemed of her as counterfeits. Yeah, that's right, you're lawyers, you're wrong in what you're saying. She abstaineth from her ways as from filthiness. She pronounces the end of the just to be blessed, and maketh her boast that God is her, not her father. I'm not making the boast God is my father. I'm making the boast God is my mother, and it's her law on my tongue. And the Old Testament supports that fact that father was to uphold the law of mother, and he did not. They took control of her law, and they did so by casting down these daughters. So this is a mock, right? She pronounces the end of the just to be blessed, and they will be. They truly will be blessed. And maketh her boast that God is her mother. Now they got father and they got he. I'm changing it to what I've come to understand it to really mean by my own personal inquisitions, and I believe those inquisitions come to be made by the Spirit that is upon me. And you don't have to agree with that. That's fine. Go make your own inquisitions if you are sincere about the truth mattering. So let us see if her words be true, and let us prove what shall happen in the end of her. You almost get it in your head here when they say that. That they want to do something nasty to her to disprove the end. Which then would put it in the hand of men, not God. Just like the law, which they claim come from God. But God says, in the end, I will defend the righteous. I will stand for them. I will be here at the appointed time. So let us see if her words are true, and let us prove what shall happen in the end of her. 18, for if the just, they've got man, we're going to say woman, be the daughter of God, she will help her and deliver her from the hand of her enemies. And that is the promise that God has made to the daughters of Israel, that she will indeed redeem them with the water, the word of truth. She says, I'll wash the blood off of my daughters. She says that in Isaiah 4. And I will restore them back to their inheritance. That's what she says to her daughters. So obviously at some point there's going to be a time when she's really going to take up our cause, and it's going to show in the land that she's done so. That she has really taken up the cause for her daughters, that the Spirit in the land, the Holy Spirit, is here with us, is making intercessions for us. And that's going to show. It's really going to show. So let us examine her with despitefulness and torture, and boy, haven't they. They have certainly examined the women under the law. Well, if she be so righteous and meek and mild and perfect and, for what is right, then let's put her through. Let's put her through it. And boy, they've put women through it. And I do think they have stood it. I do. I think they have withstood it. Let us examine her with despitefulness and torture, that we may know her meekness and prove her patience. And you have. But there comes a time, and again, this was a word that was in the New Testament. Again, I haven't found it. That she is able to control her emotions. She is able to control her anger. She is a person, a woman is a person who can really think well, especially when she goes to wisdom to do so. But there's going to come a point where she does no longer withhold her wrath. And that is all in that word. And if I can locate it, if I think to, I will put it under this video if I post it. I apologize for this again. So let us condemn her with a shameful death, for by her own saying she shall be respected. And she's going to be. That's to be understood. If you have faith in the true living God, we know this as 100% true. She will be respected. 21, such things they did imagine and were deceived, for their own wickedness has blinded them. So that's the wicked sons in view, the sons of Belial, the sons of darkness. The word Belial means sons of worthlessness. The sons of darkness who, said, who seeth us? None can see what we did. Right. But when the Spirit is sent in to make the inquisition, they get caught. And the way that you get caught is by opening your eyes and taking a look around at what's going on in the world. I think it's validated. I really do. What else was I going to say? And we also see the verses in the Old Testament where it says, the snare that he laid for us to fall into, that's false religion, bowed down at the feet of an idol. That was never God's way, that's man's way. The snare he laid for us to fall into, we at some point actually pick ourselves up from the feet of the idol. We turn back to God. Return, O Shulamite. What might we see when the Shulamite returns? As it were, the company of two armies is what it says. So the snare he lays for us to fall into, he actually ends up falling into it himself, while it says they escape. And we do escape. We escape, especially in the next life, because based on what you do here, I actually think in many ways you're determining a sort of stacking order, what part of the heavens you will go to, and it can be either a very pleasant experience, a very pleasant place that you will be taken to, a pleasant house that you will be taken to, in a sense. The houses of God are many, we see. And then those that did wicked things, their afterlife is not pleasant. It's not a good thing. I don't think. So, such things they did imagine and were deceived, for their own wickedness has blinded them. Again, we get that word imagine, and it does take us to Jeremiah 23. It really does, because we get the wicked imaginations of Baal, B-A-A-L, which leads us to husband. The men were prophesying actually through themselves, and they were making up, and they were saying, oh, it's Father that has given us these dreams that we're prophesying about, when it was really the wicked imaginations of their hearts, and lying to the daughters inside the nation of Israel to cause them to bow to a male idol, and by extension to bow to husband as Lord and Master in the land, which empowers them to basically look righteous under the law and be able to get away with whatever he wants, and he more or less has. So, 22, as for the mysteries of God, they knew them not, neither hoped they for the wages of righteousness, nor discerned a reward for blameless souls. And again, these same ones who, and we're looking at the higher-ups here, who knows? They're in the know. And I do believe there's a group of powerful men, and there's possibly some women with them, though I doubt it. But I do believe there's a group of powerful men at the top, and they know exactly that, their God, he is a lie. And they don't believe that they're going to, experience a judgment for what they have done to this world. They don't believe that. And they don't discern that there's a reward for the blameless souls, for the ones who did follow the way of God. They really don't believe that, according to this. They really did fall into their own snare, that whatever they set up, they really believe it's the truth. They believe that they're not going to pay for any bad, nasty things that they did. So God created, it's got man, I'm going to say woman, to be immortal, and made her to be an image of her own eternity. And it says in, I can't remember the passage in the New Testament, where it says, creation groaneth for the daughters is what it's groaning for. And the word for groan there is, in pregnancy, groaning and travailing in birthing pains to bring forth the firstborn daughters. And so the creation is groaning and waiting for these daughters. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil. Now, we identified the devil as linking straight back to Adam, the accuser, and we've got a couple of videos on that now. So we know who was envious of who. Nevertheless, through envy of Adam came death into the world. And they that do hold of his side, the religious idols and lies in the land, do find it. Anybody with any ounce of wisdom, any knowledge of the world, will know that what we've picked up in our videos is the truth. It is absolutely the truth. It is woman that wears the yoke on her neck. It is she that was denied her rightful place in the Godhead. And it was through envy of the devil. He accused her from the very beginning, and we see that in the garden. Now, you know what? I'm going to stop here. I could do chapter 3. I think that's a long enough, aggravation for anybody to have to endure on a video like this. Hopefully, the volume is correct. Hopefully, I did do a test, and it all turned out fine. So hopefully it recorded just fine, and if it did, hopefully it did, just minimize this, because this will just aggravate anybody to have to actually watch it. So I apologize for that, and that's chapter 2 of Wisdom in the Apocrypha. So sorry for that. I did make the notes in 3, but other plans. So I'm looking into getting another computer, hopefully. That may be a little while yet, at least a couple of weeks in the future, till we can get it squared away. So I may hold off on chapter 3, because I can't put you through this, and I just wanted you to know why I will be holding off on the studying wisdom, because I did want to do the entire book in the Apocrypha on wisdom and get through it, because it is very interesting. And it does validate when you get your correct gender, and when you put the correct gender in there, it all begins to add up. That's what wisdom means. That's what to have knowledge is. And I do believe I've been pulled out, and I believe it's evidence that God, the Spirit, is working in the earth right now. Strong. Very strong. So there, I'll stop torturing you. I thank you for being along on these studies, and especially on this video if you pull it up. Yay, bravo for you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. But I think God would appreciate it even more if you be blessed with wisdom yourself, and washed in the water, and walk in the way of God, and in the knowledge and the truth and understanding, and have all these great blessings upon your own head by doing your own studies and questioning things with the Spirit yourself. You will be answered, I guarantee you. So thanks for watching. I pray you all be blessed with a wonderful and beautiful day, and thanks for watching my video, and be blessed. Thanks.